clock on my desk blinked 12 p.m. Finally, lunchtime. I grabbed my sandwich, ready to escape the dull hum of office life for a precious hour of freedom. The cafeteria downstairs was a noisy mess, so I decided to head to the park across the street. It was a warm, sunny day, the kind that makes you appreciate every bite of your food, every moment away from the cubicle. I found my usual bench under an ancient oak tree, its branches offering a comfortable shade. As I settled in, I noticed something unusual. The park was eerily empty. Normally it buzzed with joggers, kids, and fellow office workers like myself. But today it felt like I had stepped into a different world, one devoid of life except for the whispering leaves and the distant hum of traffic. Unwrapping my sandwich, I took a bite and closed my eyes, savoring the taste. When I opened them again, I saw him, a man standing about 50 feet away, staring at me. He wore a tattered coat and a wide-brimmed hat that cast a shadow over his face. Something about him felt off, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. Maybe it was the stillness of his posture, or the way his head was slightly tilted, as if he was listening for something only he could hear. I looked away, hoping he would leave. But when I glanced back, he had moved closer. Now he was only 20 feet away, his eyes still locked on me. A shiver ran down my spine. I tried to ignore him and focused on my sandwich, but the feeling of being watched was impossible to shake. A loud rustling noise made me jump, and I turned to see a squirrel darting up the oak tree. When I looked back, the man was gone. Relief washed over me, and I chuckled at my own paranoia. I finished my sandwich, brushed off the crumbs, and decided to take a short walk before heading back to the office. As I strolled along the winding path, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. I quickened my pace, my footsteps echoing in the empty park. I glanced over my shoulder repeatedly but saw no one. Still, the unease grew, gnawing at my thoughts like a persistent itch. I turned a corner and stopped dead in my tracks. The man was there, standing directly in my path. Closer now, I could see his face, or rather the lack of it. His features were blurred like a smudged painting. Panic surged through me, and I turned to run, but my legs felt like lead. "Help!" I shouted, but my voice came out as a whisper. The park seemed to absorb the sound, rendering it useless. The man stepped closer, and I could finally see his eyes, black voids that seemed to suck in the light. I backed away, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly the ground beneath me gave way, and I fell into darkness. The world above vanished, replaced by cold, damp earth. I landed hard, pain shooting through my ankle. I tried to stand, but the pain was too intense. Above me, the hole I had fallen through closed, sealing me in darkness. Panic clawed at my mind as I felt around, searching for any way out. My fingers brushed against something cold and metallic, a ladder. I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the pain, and climbed, each rung bringing me closer to the light. I emerged into a dimly lit corridor, the walls lined with old, flickering, fluorescent lights. The air was thick with the smell of decay. I limped forward, my footsteps echoing in the silence. The corridor seemed to stretch on forever, each step amplifying my sense of dread. Suddenly I heard it, a low, guttural growl. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The sound grew louder and closer. I turned slowly, and there it was, a creature hunched and grotesque, its skin pale and slicked like rotting flesh. Its eyes, black as the void, locked onto mine, filled with an insatiable hunger. I backed away, my mind screaming for me to run, but my body refused to move. The creature lunged, and I fell, scrambling backward. Just as it was about to reach me, a door to my left burst open, and I was pulled inside. I looked up to see the man from the park. His features were still blurred, but his eyes were different now, no longer voids, but filled with a strange, sorrowful light. "Follow me," he said, his voice a raspy whisper. I hesitated, but the sound of the creature outside spurred me into action. I followed him through a maze of corridors, my heart pounding in my ears. Finally, we reached a large, rusted door. He pushed it open, revealing the park, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. I stepped outside, gasping for fresh air. When I turned to thank him, he was gone. The park was no longer empty. People were everywhere, jogging, playing, laughing. I stumbled to my bench, my mind racing to make sense of what had happened. Back at the office, I tried to tell my coworkers, but they laughed it off as a prank or an overactive imagination. But I knew the truth. I had seen the hunger in those black eyes, felt the cold, damp earth around me, and every day since, I felt the weight of that unseen world, lurking just beneath the surface of our own. Now, as I sit here, staring at the clock, counting down to lunch, I can't shake the feeling that it's watching, waiting for me to step into the park once more.